All right, welcome back to another phenomenal episode. Today we are joined by all Cass, no breaks, and Cass just competed at the Georgia State Championships, had a phenomenal performance, and we kind of talk about that and recap a little bit, and then we just dive into some other random questions. We went about an hour and a half, and it was a real easy conversation to have with CassiDee, but overall, I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Podium Talk. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, welcome back to another phenomenal episode. Today we are joined by CassiDee from Trueborn. Honestly, that's where you all know her from. Introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, my name is CassiDee Rotolo. I compete in the 67.5 weight class in USAPL. Outside of powerlifting, I'm also 22, by the way. But outside powerlifting, I am post-grad. So I graduated from the University of North Georgia in Dahlonega in 2023 of May. And I'm working in marketing in Atlanta. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. And then I guess we can go straight into training recaps, Tony.
Uh, well, it's going great, honestly. This is one of the best week twos I've ever had, honestly. So I feel extremely confident. I don't know if I feel really confident again. So yeah, 8 weeks out. I'm feeling great.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. I'm doing pretty decent. We're doing the thing. We're in and out. You know how it be. Let's get to know you a little bit more, Cassie, before we jump into your prep. Kind of let everyone get to know your lifting and specifically. How long have you been training? All of that.
I've been powerlifting since August 2021. So coming up, I think 3 years. Since then, I started, I think, going to my junior year of college. So juggling powerlifting and school was definitely quite the journey. And even juggling it now in a full-time job has its battles, but I get through it.
For sure, for sure, for sure. And then where did you start off when you first started competing? Like, what was your first meet? How did you get into the sport? Or like what led you to actually start competing?
So COVID happened and I was sent home and I realized I put on a little more weight at school than I wanted to. Did like Chloe teen workouts if y'all like even know what that is, but got into that, started that whole thing. Did transition into running a lot. So I was running at one point I was running like 3 miles like every other day. Don't know how I did that. Was doing like HIIT training and then I think when the gyms opened back up, I wanted to look into strength training because I remember watching a YouTube video of this girl. She was like, I dropped like 5-10 pounds, but she looked like she dropped 30, and it's simply because she had muscle. And I was like, I want that. So I started just researching, honestly, a lot of like nutrition stuff, macros, how to do like a workout split. So your typical like push pull leg split. Went back into the gym when the gyms opened up and been there since. Just got really strong, was doing my own programming, and someone at my school at the time, they were doing powerlifting and USPA, yeah. And so then I just got reached out from his coach, and I just convinced my parents to like let me do it because obviously I financially couldn't do it myself. So I was like, parents, can you support me in this journey? And so they said yeah. So then that's basically how I got started. Then I started in USPA, and now did like I think 3 or 4 meets there. I did nationals in Atlanta when they had it a couple years ago, and after that is when I once switched coaches, but then switched to USAPL.
And what was the reasoning to switch to USAPL? Because I see you did 3 meets in USPA, and they were pretty solid, honestly. Like, why'd you go away from the deadlift bar?
Okay, if I'm being completely honest, when I first started watching, I didn't know there were two federations, and I didn't even know there was a difference in a stiff bar and a deadlift bar. So, like, I remember like people asking me like, "Oh, did you like have like any difference like in the pull? Could you feel like the slack pull like out of it?" And I was like, "No," because like that's not something I was aware of until obviously now, like being more in tune with my training, I understand what they're asking. But yeah, I don't know why I switched. I think when I just switched coaches, I was like, I think I knew like the competitiveness because I had done USAPL states with my first coach. And then I realized I actually had some competitors and people I could actually compete with and have like a fun time. And so then I think I just stuck with USAPL and I switched coaches that summer and I knew I wanted to do collegiate nats. So just kind of stuck there.
Valid, valid.
Yeah.
Who's your coach right now, or who did you switch to?
So I switched to my coach now, Carl. Um, let's see, back in August, end of August, a little bit. So I've been with him. So this was my first entire prep with him. So I've seen like a lot of good results, like even in prep and even at my meet. I think I had like a 50 kg meet PR. I think I last told like 360 or 370. So I think it's like more so 30 kg actually. So yeah, had a lot of success there.
Oh,
Okay, I was about to sneeze. Holy, okay, but I was gonna say, I'm sorry, I didn't get to mention this back, like, because you mentioned this like a while ago. But when you were talking about like how you got into powerlifting, it's
Mhm.
actually kind of insane because I mean, I've never said this on the podcast or anything, but I literally came up like the exact, same exact way that you came up. I like went to college freshman year, and then like I started training a little bit, and I was like chubby, so I started running like crazy during quarantine when everything shut down, and I lost like 40 pounds, and then I just got in the gym and slowly got into powerlifting. So the Chloe Ting thing, I never did that. I never did. But the hit workouts and stuff, I would do like whatever. I'd do jump rope and like burpees, whatever. I do stuff like that in quarantine. So I was extremely like nostalgic when you were mentioning that because
Oh, cool.
yeah. But also I didn't know you did USPA at all. So that's kind of
Yeah, I
I
try
thought
to
you were
block
like
it out. Try to block it out. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's great to hear. So
for sure, for sure.
anyways, yeah.
But yeah, so obviously USPA first, switching to USAPL. Looking at your open powerlifting, your open powerlifting sheet is deep. You got a lot of meets on here. A lot of them are because you're a junior and open.
Right.
But obviously, let's just go dive into state. I mean, a 405 total and a 424 dots. Let's talk about prep. How was your prep going into it?
I feel like prep's honestly always over the place, and I feel like everyone will say that within a prep. It's good sometimes, bad sometimes, mediocre sometimes, and I think that's typical. So I don't know. I had good points in my prep. I had not so good points in my prep. So for example, like I actually was injured like twice. And that was really sucky because it was closer to prep when prep was kind of picking up a bit closer to December. So I had two injuries at like kind of like the same time. So one was my wrist, my right wrist for some reason. I think it was because we were doing bicep curls and I think I just tweaked something when I was doing it. So benching was the only place I kind of really experienced some discomfort. It was honestly just when I racked the bar. And it was painful. I'd have like shooting pain down my wrist. But after we took hammer curls and bicep curls out of my program because that was kind of what was causing a lot of pain. So then my pain kind of subsided. But then I think this was on like my week 3 on one of my back downs. I like had a knot in my back like all throughout like doing sports growing up. I had like it's a knot like right under my shoulder blade, and sometimes it flares up, and it typically can go away in like a couple days. But this week 3, it flared up, but it never went away. It like persisted, and I couldn't like brace because it would hurt when I braced. Having weight on my back just sucked. I could still power through like the rep, but it was just such an uncomfortable movement. And even deadlifting, honestly, it became like painful just depending on where I placed my belt. So I had to kind of troubleshoot that with my coach, and I had to just move my belt into a position that just helped me actually lift and get like some weight on the bar. So that's what I did. And honestly, squat just felt never the same because right at that point, squats were kind of like on a high. And then once this happened, they like kind of went on a low and kind of sucked mentally because I was like honestly projected probably, I think that week. On my week 4, I'd probably hit 155, 160. And I could barely even load 145 on my week 4, which sucked. But I think this was like a month out. I was still feeling good. I had kind of rehabbed my back a lot going into my sessions, making sure it was warmed up and everything. And just not, if it was flaring, I would take note of it and just let my coach know and moderate my back downs and everything if it was too heavy. But somehow, like, I think the pain subsided and just the knot wasn't as uncomfortable anymore. And I moved my belt back into my original position I had it in, and I was fine. And then kind of squats went back up a little bit. So yeah, prep was all over the place. Started a full-time job within that. So was trying to juggle balancing working and powerlifting and having an outside life. But I still did it. So we're still here. I had a good performance, but it was all over the place for sure.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. I mean, everyone I know that's in prep right now is there something's flaring, something's firing, something's popping like day to day. But the prep pains, it's hard to like decipher like what's going to be a week or what's going to be 2 weeks where you have to actually address, can I make it through this? But how did it feel, going through those squat pains and then not being able to load that weight and then getting on the platform and leaving with 145 on the day?
Yeah, definitely sucked because I think I'm very much like built for squat. I think it mainly sucked because when I had my like back flare up, it was when squats were at an all-time high, and I was like really confident when I had to squat like on my primary days. And when on my week 4 I could only load 145, knowing that like I have more in me, it just really sucked. But honestly, just like squats just have always since then, even though my back has felt fine, squats is just always, they haven't been the same. So I'm trying to build my confidence back up. And going into the meet, the confidence was a little low on squats, not gonna lie, because on my peak week, I was supposed to triple between 140 and 145. And I took 145, but only could get it for double. And I racked it on the third because I was like, I'm not gonna fail a third attempt or a third rep and then completely like overshoot my fatigue single. So I just racked it and I only did 150 for my fatigue single, and it moved worse than it did the week prior. Cause the week prior it moved like really phenomenally, where I was like, okay, I could probably load 155, 157 and a half for my week 4, but I couldn't. I had a lot of work stress that week because I was gonna be out the next week for taper because I didn't want to be working while I was tapering because I wanted to mitigate all stress I had. So yeah, squats didn't really end on a good note on peak week. So I just honestly tried to just forget about it, tried to learn from it obviously, but not completely let it diminish my confidence and think that like I can't squat more than that. But honestly for me, like walking into meet day, I'm always like a different person than I am in training. It's like a switch that I flip on, knowing that like, okay, like whatever happened in prep happened, but like I'm completely tapered, like fatigue's gone, like my mindset's right, like this is my day, this is my meet, and I have like goals I want to hit today, I want to win, I want to do all these things. So I just kind of had to just honestly gaslight myself into the confidence being there. I could only match 145 that day because I don't know if you guys like kind of picked up, but my second attempt, I got called for my wrist wraps being too high, and I didn't know that they were too high ever, even in training. Like no one's ever told me. Like, and I have like people in like at Trueborn who are like refs, and so I feel like they would let me know. My coach, I think he's a national ref. He's never like told me that they were too high or anything either. But I got called for it, and I timed out when I tried to rewrap them, so I had to rack it, and so I just took 145 for my third. And my top end that day was 152 and a half. So I was estimating between 152, 150, 152 and a half for my third, but only got 145. So I will always be upset at my squat performance on the day, knowing I had a lot more, especially the way my third attempt moved. But I mean, it is what it is. I can't change it. The ref was following the rules. I'm not gonna like blame her for following the rule book. So yeah.
No, for sure that happens a lot. I feel like people never like it's impossible to predict stuff like that because I remember I didn't get called for it, but at nationals, my knee sleeves, like they told me that my sleeves were like too wrinkled up or something like that. And I was like, what? I was like, what does that mean? Like what's wrong with that? So I had to like make sure that like they were like all the way, I guess, like straightened out, like all the way on my leg. I don't really know. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's annoying. Yeah, I mean, I was curious about that because I didn't know if like you had failed on strength or I didn't see it. I just saw the lifting guys. So I
Yeah.
didn't know what that whole 145, the miss second was. But yeah, that's got to be frustrating. The wrist
Yeah,
wrap,
it
that's
was
stupid.
because I like went back in the warm up room and I was like I was really pissed if I'm being honest. I was like because on my first attempt when I had racked it and like went to see if you went to the back, it looked like the head ref wanted to like grab me and say something to me, but she didn't actually like try to grab me and say anything. She never told me anything. Um, so I mean, if she told me then, I would have known for my second attempt, and I would have made sure they were low enough, and not have them high, like I thought they were. So I'll always be like, okay, what if she had like actually said something to me, like things could have been different. But I kind of like I went back in the weight room and I was just like really pissed. And I was like, because the past like two meets, I've just had like a very tough time with starting the meet off strong with squats. My previous meet before now was Atlanta Open Prime Time, and I went 3 for 3 that day on squats, but my ankle was injured at the time, so I was worried that I wasn't gonna hit depth. And then before that, I did CNATs, and I almost bombed out on squats because I wasn't hitting depth, but I didn't bomb out. I got my third attempt. So I was always like, for me, like hearing that was like, okay, like why can't squats ever just like go smooth? Like something's always wrong. So it definitely like made me shaken up for the day because I was like, oh gosh, like this is setting the tone wrong for the day. Like I'm not gonna like the day's not gonna go well. But I kind of like let myself be like upset for like 10 seconds and I was like, okay, get your head out of your ass. Like you still have like seven whatever how many more attempts to do. Like you still have things and goals you have to hit. So like be upset about it now and then like get your head back in the game. And that's what I did. And my third attempt flew like as it should. So I just like got over it.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I mean, I'm like I totally understand what you mean. I haven't hit a third squat in like I can't remember. I think since like 2022 states, so like 2 years ago. Uh, so it's a horrible feeling when you start off the meet and you feel like your day is already like it can't be perfect. It's over. It's like yeah, 7.5 keys. Like I mean, luckily you had a good day following, but 7.5 keys, yeah, like it sucks. So it's good that you shook back and were able to like end up, finishing the way you did because the squat, yeah, I don't know. I literally like when I missed my third squat at nationals, I was like, I want to pack my stuff and leave. Like I was over it. So
Yeah, and like they set the tone for the day, and I was like, I can't have this be the tone for my day, especially since for me personally, like my squat like impacts my deadlift, and I was like, I can't have deadlift go crappy either. So I was like squats need it, like we need to have a good day, but like it is what it is, and like we were able to still like make up the day with just having like good attempts. The only thing is just like if I had hit like my plan, like at least like 150, like on my third, I would have qualified for open for raw nats. I qualified for junior, but I would have qualified for open. I was 2.5 under the open QT. So that will always be in the back of my head, like, oh, like if I had my third attempt, that would have been like 2.5 over the QT and would have been able to compete under open. But you know, win some, lose some.
yeah, no, that stings. But I guess on the bench, do you have anything you want to talk about there? Or
Yeah. So I mean, bench, like I think towards the kind of end part of my prep, bench just started clicking a lot. Strength was picking up. My peak week I hit 95, and I honestly didn't even know what the record was for 67.5 junior for Georgia at all until I think I was like talking to Lilia, and she had told me that the record was like super close and I could probably break it. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't know this. So then I remember I wasn't training to hit it, if I'm being honest. Like I wasn't training to hit it until like she had told me, and I was like, oh, this would be like cool to hit. And I think I mentioned it like once to my coach. Like, so he didn't even know until I think like during taper when I told him. So the record was 92 and a half. And I knew since I hit 95, I was like, okay, I definitely think I can hit 95 on the platform. And so first time was 87 and a half, moved like butter, which is really good. So I was pretty confident going into my second. But my second attempt, I kind of like misgrooved it a little bit. I'm a very technical bencher, high arch bencher. So if there's like one small, like minor error in touch point or whatever, it's kind of like game over. So my second attempt, it didn't exactly fly the way I wanted it to. It was a little slower off the chest, but still got it like fast at lockout. But I knew 97 and a half wasn't going to be there for my top end. So I just took 95 and was like, yeah, I think 95 is going to be there. And honestly, I hit 95 and it flew faster than my second attempt. And a lot of people were like, you should have loaded like 97 and a half for like 100. But I was like, no, I'd rather take like the win. So I stuck with just taking the bench record, which is kind of cool because I don't think I've ever held a USAPL record until now. I've had a couple like USPA ones. I think I still have them. But yeah, it's cool to like have one in USAPL, especially since it's you know highly competitive, and knowing I have something in that that kind of like shows like I can take up space in like the industry. It's super cool to like be like, oh, I have a record, and I'll probably end up breaking it like more in the future if no one else takes it.
For sure, for sure. And like you said, you had a very technical bench setup. I'm watching like the video right now. How has that been kind of finding that technique and have you always had that sort of ability to sit like that, or are you sort of grown in that throughout your career?
Definitely taken some time for it to form the way it is now. When I first started, I had like no arch. It was like this. It was like nothing. So it's definitely interesting to go back, like when I first started with my first coach, and I'm like, I have no arch. It's basically like flat back. So it's cool to see like the way I've just found a way to bench for myself. So it just takes honestly just like trial and error. I've messed around with like my feet positioning a lot, how I even get into my arch, setting up on bench anyways. So it takes some time to get here, and like I probably will honestly tweak it like from now until Raw Nats. So who knows to like how else is going to be different. But I think I just found like a lot of things that have just worked for me the past couple of months and just implementing them in training, and then it's just been up since. So
For
Yeah.
sure. And then,
Well, oh, well, I was just gonna say, yeah. You were talking about the competitiveness. Yeah, taking a record in USAPL Georgia, a state record for the 67 class is like crazy. I think that's 100% like I don't know the statistics or anything, but I think it's like clearly the deepest class in Georgia for sure. So I'd imagine taking that record, like that's probably like the most valid female weight class to take a record in. You know, it's like so many 67s. So 95 is massive. But what were you gonna say,
yeah.
Eli?
I was just saying, like, just like you said, your prep was kind of all over the place. You know, you go through this meet, opener on squat, second attempt, opener, kind of like, yeah, but then you take a bench record. Now, how are you feeling
Yeah.
going towards deadlifts?
Feeling good. Bench is always like the thing. Bench is like personally like my favorite lift. It's like one I think I've been told it's like my most technically sound and like my best lift. And some people view it as like an intermission, but it's like that's where I pick up the pace and other people kind of slack. So that's where I try to get ahead. And like knowing I had like the heaviest bench in the fight was kind of cool. But I ended off on like a bench record, and I was going into deadlift, and honestly, like I'm not like the best deadlifter, like either. Like it's very comparable to my squat. So I wasn't honestly like super excited for it because peak week I only I hit my top end on my peak week with 160, but it wasn't the prettiest 160. It wasn't ugly, but definitely I think I had at least 5 kg room like for the third attempt on the day. And we made like a form adjustment on my taper. And going into deads, things were feeling really good during warm-ups and very snappy. First attempt was fine, typical as a first attempt. Second attempt is kind of where I knew I had 165 in the bag. My second attempt flew like it's never flown before, like even in training. So I knew 165 was 65, honestly, plus could have been there. I think 172 and a half, 170 maybe, would probably have been there on the day. So I hit 165 pretty easily. Then was able to break 400 key total, and then get drug tested. So honestly, I ended the day feeling a lot better than when I started.
For sure, for sure. And then with you and your coach, load selection on deadlifts was, the open Nats qualifying total in the back of your head. Like, do you wish you would have went for that 407 on deadlift, or were y'all just trying to have the best day you could have?
Um, Definitely was like our goal to hit 407.5 to qualify for open. But my top end on deadlift was only 165 because just showing that in my training, I've only ever hit 160. I honestly don't think he thought 167.5 to 170 was gonna be there. I honestly wouldn't have thought either. I just think honestly, just something in me clicked during taper, and I was able to translate that on meet day. So I think honestly, I think if my coach was there, I think Greg was handling me, and Greg and my coach Carl were talking on Instagram. I think Greg had mentioned it, but I think we were like, I think he just said, like just go for 165, secure the. When me and my coach had talked after, but and debriefed on like Monday about the meet, and because I asked him about it, I was like, would you have wanted to maybe let me load 167.5? And he was like, I thought about it, but I wanted to secure like your 400 key total. I thought like, maybe there's like gonna be a meet like in the meantime, like between now and raw nats that you want to do. If you wanted to secure the QT total for open, you could do that. So I wasn't like upset that I was 2.5 shy, and I probably could have loaded 167.5, because it is what it is. If anything, it gives me a lot of confidence going into my training that I have a way better deadlift than I think I do. And I think there's a big number waiting for me at raw nats. So it gives me a lot of confidence just the way that deadlifts just ended. So
Sure, sure. Then as we kind of move away from your performance, like where are you, obviously Nats, but where's your head at going into training? Like what are some goals that you're setting for yourself before that next competition?
Honestly, I want to put myself on like too high of standards with like my first block after a prep, just because I think the first block after a complete prep is always going to just, I think, be the rustiest. And just one, I'm not going to hold myself to a lot of high standards. I'm just going to manage like my expectations. If I hit some cool PRs within this first block, then that's cool. I definitely will say I want to hit at least like a 100 key bench, at least by like in 2 months. I think I have 100 key bench in me, minimum. So it'd be cool to hit that with in the next block or 2 blocks from now. That way I can, I don't know, hit like, I don't know what number I would even want to hit on bench at raw nats, but I'm thinking like 107.5, maybe 110 if we're crazy. So yeah, I have like a lot of goals like this prep, but I guess short-term goals, like with just my prep now, like, or the first block I'm about to start, just hopefully get my squat back, figure out my deadlift a little bit more, and maybe hit 100 on bench. So
Phenomenal, phenomenal.
Yeah, we need that 100.
yeah, trust me, like everyone's wanting me to load 100. Like the amount of times like in training, everyone kept telling me like load the yellow, load the yellow. Joel likes to tell me to load the blue. Like, no, thank you. Like that's gonna kill me. So yeah, I think everyone's very eager of me to hit 100 more than I am, and especially my coach. Like every time I pay him, I Venmo him and I send him like in the notes, I'm like 100 kg bench, please. So I think it's there, and I think when it's there, I think I'll lose my marbles. Because I'd have never thought like starting powerlifting that I would even have the potential to even like hit 100. So I think that's kind of crazy to see that like 100 isn't grasp. Because I remember like watching powerlifters like when I first started, being like a lot of these girls already been like repping in the hundreds or like high twos. I'm like, I'm never going to be there, but it's like crazy. I'm like, I'm here, like I can do it. So I don't know, we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be the next venture in Georgia who's crazy good. So
I mean, for sure, having a record this early in like your competitive career is insane. I know you weren't expecting that, but I mean, just looking at the numbers is crazy. But obviously, phenomenal meet. Now we've kind of covered your performance, one of the better performances on the day. Let's talk about just the meet in general, the production, the
venue and whatnot. What are some things you liked, some things you didn't like, or some things you noticed that you just thought were different?
I honestly think this is a pretty well produced meet, if I'm being honest. I mean, I've done states before and I've done local meets, I've done national meets, so I kind of have my fair share of different experiences of meets at different levels. But honestly, like when I remember seeing it on social media on the day before my meet, I remember seeing it. I was like, this looks like very nice, like very, the platforms like were lit up. It made me think I was like at Raw Nats or at CNATs where like the platforms are lit up and the backdrops are really nice. So I don't know, like everything like looked well produced. Weigh-ins and everything were very smooth. So were check-ins, like nothing, everything was on time. Honestly, I tried to honestly stay calm on the day, so I wasn't even worried if like something was running behind. I was like, whatever, like it's fine. I have to experience it. I like how there was like 10 warm-up racks. That was really nice. The warm-up room reminded me a lot of CNATs, honestly, and the way it was set up. But I liked having that many warm-up room or racks because it made everyone just be so spread out. So honestly, like I pretty much like the entire production value of the event, if I'm being honest. Only thing I would probably say I would change is I feel like I don't know if this is possible. I know for Atlanta Primetime, Jazz did this, but she assigned lifters to warm-up racks. And I don't know with it this being a bigger meet and primetime obviously being smaller, if that's even possible. But I remember I started warming up on squats on one rack and ended on the other. And as someone who like, I know this is a lot of people's first meets and they don't know, like honestly, you should maybe only have 4 to 5 people per rack. It was like frustrating, like knowing that like it looked like Greg was frustrated with like other people coming into the rack and adding themselves onto like the wait list of warming up and everything. Obviously, I want everyone to warm up. I'm not going to be a snob, but I wish like it would kind of be more advocated that like if you see 4+ people, go to a different rack. So that's not really on like Siraj or Kathy or anyone. That's more on just like letting people know in advance of like kind of how to mitigate that situation.
For sure. And I think I can't remember if it was States last year, but I think Joel dropped the video and was like, here's how, or no, it was Roar dropped the video and like, here's how you should act in the warm-up room going into States. And he like kind of
Yeah.
laid out the rules, but I didn't get to show up to the States because it was like a 2-hour drive and I was just loaded, but the venue looks so much better than last year, not being in that kind of gym arena, like having carpet around makes it look so much more professional. But Tony, what was your kind of views of the meet being there coaching?
Yeah, so I was there for Friday and no, I was there for Saturday and Sunday. I had a lifter that was competing against Cass. So I actually was like in the same, I was like around Cass a lot there, but she made a good point there. I didn't even think too hard about the warm-up room. The warm-up room reminded me of Raw Nats, kind of, because of obviously it's just so many racks and there were just so many people in there. It still even did feel pretty crowded, oddly enough, in my opinion, especially as a handler. I don't know if Cass can relate because you probably were like sitting and not moving around too much, but as a handler, it was extremely crowded back there. And I really did like what she said there about like potentially maybe somehow like organizing who goes where because that was a huge thing. And it also really sucked whenever, you know, we would finish squats or whatever. And then we're looking for a bench to start warming up on because we're in flight A. We're looking for a bench and somebody just left like 3 reds on the squat rack or whatever. And a lot of people like Kaz mentioned earlier, a lot of them it's their first meet. So it was my lifter's first meet as well. So I get why things happen, people leave stuff everywhere or whatever. But I really do kind of wish people did better about like cleaning up after themselves and remembering to unload their bar to the very least extent, like the very at the very least unloading their bar. So that was one thing that was kind of like tough, and that's just local gym people. It's That's nothing to do with obviously the people that ran it or whatever. You can't really help that, but that was just something that was kind of annoying. And then one other thing that you can't really help either, was the bathrooms were pretty far. So that was kind of tough. And I wasn't even a lifter, so I'd imagine if I was a lifter and I was wearing my Titan sleeves and I had to walk all the way over to the bathroom, I would have been pretty miserable, honestly. So maybe one day we could have a closer bathroom. At Raw Nights, the bathroom was like right there. It was crazy close. It was insanely close. That was like I'm spoiled from that. But yeah, it was I definitely like the way it was run, man. It was definitely the best venue I've ever seen in USAPL, Georgia. Uh Parking was easy. Like there was so many parking spaces. It wasn't like your meet like the Holiday Havoc where I had to park a mile away.
Oh yeah, that was tough. I was spawning and I remember I got there early, but I remember walking out to the parking lot and it was like only like maybe 7 cars. I'm like, where's everyone parking? But I remember that being a big issue, parking.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was crazy. I got there late and I was like, dude, where do I park? I don't even know where this building is. It was like in this like small little
Oh,
like I
no.
didn't even know where it was. I was lost. So I
For
was
sure.
following the music. But state parking was great. Tons of space for the spectators, like a ton of space, a lot of good sponsors and like tables in the back. I forgot what they're called. So that was pretty cool.
Live stream was also pretty good too, I feel.
Last year?
No, like this year. The like
Oh, the live stream.
like I feel like that was also really well. I liked how UV and Mike were what's the word over the audio,
Commentating.
yeah, commentating. So that was cool, but they had like an entire setup back there, so that was cool to making sure like the live stream was going well, because I know that's always kind of a topic of discussion with making sure live streams are just not being glitchy. So I remember at the DNA meet, I was on, I think I was watching Kyle's platform, and his glitched out like the entire time during bench. Didn't see anyone's bench. So I'm glad like no one's live stream, at least to my knowledge, didn't glitch
Hmm.
when we were competing. But
Yeah. The issue at the DNA meet was people were sitting on the wires of the camera, and it was
yeah,
like kind of unplugging and plugging because me and Tony were on the live stream there.
yeah.
Oof, that sucked. And then people getting in front of the cameras, it was a whole thing. But before we get too far down the road, Tony, why don't you just go ahead and talk about your athletes and how they did and cover that real quick?
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I won't take too long. I mean, I'll so first the female I had on Saturday, Layla, she was a 67 and a half, and it's her first meet. So she came in and we went 7 for 9. We missed her third squat, which was a PR match. She, I don't know, I think she just kind of like stopped like standing up midway through. It looked good. So I'm kind of like, I was like, Layla, I feel like you could have fought with that a little longer. But it is what it is. And then we actually missed her opener bench because like she went up and like her wrist like did that thing where like
Okay, yeah.
yeah, and then like I guess the she locked it out fine. Like I didn't even see any downward motion, but I guess
Okay.
the judges like didn't give her the benefit of the doubt.
Mm.
So 2 reds and a white. So we retook 132 on her second, and she blew it up. So I was like, we gotta hit something big. Um, so I jumped 7.5 kilos, and I was so nervous, but she got that like no problem. So it was a
That's a big
perfect
jump for
goal.
a girl. That's a big jump on bench for a girl.
I I know, and I put it in, and I was like, wait, y'all, can I change? I asked the volunteers. I was like, please tell me I can change that third attempt, because I was like so nervous for her, and they said no. So, um, she
Ridiculous.
she she hit it though. She hit it, so that was dope. And then
Yeah.
her third deadlift took an all time PR, and that was awesome. That was like it was awesome seeing that. Uh, Fast forward to Sunday, had my boy Landon. He's a 110, weighed in at 100.8. So he
Wow.
weighed in at the absolute bottom of the weight class. And we matched all-time PR on squat. Um, 2.5 all-time PR on bench, and then a 20 kilogram PR on deadlift. So Landon is absolutely one of the best like meet day executors I've ever. It's his second meet, and he went 9 for 9 at both. And it wasn't like a sandbag 9 for 9. It's like always like we maxed out the total. So he did great. I that 600 deadlift was probably the most exciting lift I've ever seen for like outside of myself. Obviously, I was so excited for him. It was 600. So I had a great time, man. Like I said, the only yeah, it was just really crowded in that warm up room, man. It was tough, but um, is what it is, man. I enjoyed it so much. So
For sure. And we can't speak too much for Avery and what and who he handled, but Sarah, Nigel, and I'm gonna say Gilio. Never spoken to him. I'm gonna pronounce his name that way. I think they all did well. I know Sarah's happy with what she did. Looks like
Nigel did good. Nigel did
Nigel
very
got a
well.
427 dots. That's actually
Nigel
crazy. I
did,
didn't know that.
yeah. Nigel did really well.
So they're all dogs. So congrats to them.
Yeah, and then
Um,
Gilio went 9 for 9 first meet. He did great. So
let's go.
pretty good. Yeah. Well,
W's all around.
are we
But
done with
let's
state
just
now? Oh,
let me get like top three favorite things, top three least favorite things from both of you. We'll start with Tony.
damn. Okay. I look okay. So top three favorite things. I guess there's a lot here to pick from. This is probably the easier part. I would say just straight up the venue, man. Like I don't know. I mean, the venue was awesome. I didn't get a chance to look at the live stream. So I'll let that be one of y'all. I know y'all got probably watched it more. I never really watched it, but the venue was good. I would say the yeah, like the fact that the warm-up room had 10 racks, that was awesome. And they were all combo racks, all kilo plates. There was no pound plates, no bumpers. That was awesome. Um, so that was amazing. And then just the equipment as well in general, having 3 TSS racks with what were they? I think elite. What kind of bars were they? Were they TSS bars?
I have no
Um,
clue. Was not my
oh,
I was like,
um,
I see a bar. I'm gonna use it.
yeah. So, but either way, the actual equipment they were lifting with was dope. The Alico plates and the platform two, and then Rogue on the other two. Um, so yeah, it was super professional. So I would say those are my three: is like the venue, the warm up room, and the actual equipment that y'all lifted with. Three things I didn't like. Warm up room was really crowded. I think a lot of people kind of, I had a like, I feel like a lot of people didn't really have great etiquette there with, unloading weights and kind of tidying up everything and thinking about others. And then three,
I mean, if there's no
shoot.
negatives, there's no negatives. You don't got to make them up.
Okay. Oh, let me be a little cheap here. That coaching pass was 25, had to pay for 2 of those. Didn't really enjoy that. So,
Hmm.
but I mean, hey, that's like what you get for getting a good meet. I mean, the money's got to come from somewhere, I guess. It just kind of like, damn, I got to pay 2 coaching passes. Okay. Um, so that's how nationals is too, but
Yeah.
nationals is nationals. I thought state would be a little more relaxed, but I get it, man. I get it. So that's it for me. Kaz, you go.
I think first is taking a bench record. Second, breaking a 400 total. Third, like cheesy, but I'm just thankful for all like the spotters and loaders and refs and Kathy and Siraj just running the meet and everything. That all of those people are like the reason that we were able to compete. So I think it's always good to shout them out and give them some acknowledgement. Things I didn't like, honestly, the only really big thing is just people not understanding that you have to maybe keep 4 people at a rack to a minimum, and then just disperse elsewhere. Bathrooms being far, like you said, I didn't experience much of that because I try to time out when I need to use the bathroom and not like drinking a lot of liquid like when I'm doing my warms, because I know like I have a nervous bladder, so I know like if I drink a lot of water and I'm nervous, I'm gonna like be running back and forth, and I knew it was far and I didn't want to do that. So I only really would be utilizing the bathroom like between lifts or towards the end of the meet, obviously, but yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a great meet. I give it like a fucking, or I give it like a, for a Georgia meet, I would say, actually, I don't know how to rate that. I guess maybe like an 8.8. It's really damn good. Still a couple of things. I mean, yeah, 8.8. I think that's like really good. Uh, so, but
Yeah, I mean
uh,
that I definitely think like production wise, I would say probably the best meet of the year. I mean, you had 50 people go over 400 dots. So, I mean, you could argue the DNA meet had a good roster and had kind of the excitement, but so far it's March 1st and there hasn't been that many great meets. This one was very professional. I mean, it's head and shoulders above last states just on like the quality. And if like you look at a post from last year on the live stream and a post from this year, even that just little square you're looking at, just the surroundings look even better. Commentary was good on both, but uh, not being there, I would say it's a phenomenal meet. I didn't see any of the issues, but I can tell that Siraj and Kathy have been taking huge feedback from, the Havoc meet, the Collegiate Cup, the Collegiate Champ, all those meets that had like smaller issues. It seems like they really combined those to make a great state championships. But moving on, let's talk about the sport a little bit. Obviously, Cass, you're very involved. You kind of, talking before this, you can tell that you are knowledgeable and know the sport, but overall, how do you feel about like the space in Georgia in general? You can look around at surrounding states, see like powerlifting in Florida is pretty decent. There's nothing really in Alabama. They have one meet a year. South Carolinas are huge, but how do you feel about Georgia's growth recently?
It's really nice seeing a lot of people getting into the sport, especially a lot of women getting into the sport, just with kind of the stigma around just women in strength sports in general. There's always going to be someone who has something to say about women trying to be strong. So it's nice seeing that women are getting into that. I know I have a lot of friends who they're always showing me support and they're always wanting to get into it. People even honestly within the sport, they tell me that like I'm someone who gives them a lot of inspiration and motivation. So that's really cool to see. So I think in that sense, it's really good. Competition is really high. In Georgia, honestly, I feel like it's only getting better. So that's really cool to see that the standards just being set like a lot higher and pushing people to work harder. So I think that's cool. I think the community is pretty nice, honestly. I've trained at Trueborn. I've felt a good sense of community at Trueborn. I just recently switched to DNA just with it fitting better in my schedule. So I've seen a lot of good community there so far too. So it's been nice to see that. So yeah.
For sure, for sure. And then you kind of mentioned a lot of females getting in the sport. We've had a lot of females on for CNATs recently, and you haven't competed at the meet. What are you looking forward to watch coming in, obviously in Atlanta? I don't know if you're planning on being there or if you're just looking forward to live stream, but what are some of the battles you see or the weight classes you're really excited for?
Well, I'll probably be on the live stream because I'm assuming it's gonna start on a Thursday, Friday. I don't really know when everyone's competing, but I honestly I won't drive all the way down there to I think it's College Park or something down in South Atlanta. So I'll just be honestly excited to watch um Lilia compete, Kenya, Sequoia. Honestly, I don't know who else is competing, if I'm being honest. I think Bryce is probably competing. Honestly, anyone who's probably in college right now is competing. So it's gonna be exciting to honestly see the performance that they're all gonna show out on the platform. I think a lot of it's gonna be their second CNATs too. I know it's Kenya's first, but I know Lilia, I think Bryce will be their second. Um, Yeah, so I think it's gonna be definitely a cool thing to watch, and I'm excited to see the show that everyone's gonna put on.
For sure. And then
Oh,
having
yeah.
competed at a CNATS, what was like something you would say to help some of these like first timers going to CNATS to help them, go into it confident, more relaxed, step on that national stage more prepared?
Take it one lift at a time. It being a national level event, it's always different. It's gonna feel different. There's gonna be a lot stricter judging. So make sure like when you're in the warm room, like you're hitting your commands, you're hitting depth, things like that. Because they will hold you to a very high standard on the platform, as we should locally too, which that also say like at states, I feel like they held a lot of the high standards at states. So that was nice to see, just to kind of look back to that. Um, but yeah, I think national platforms, they just cause a lot of nerves with it just being your first national meet. So just take it lift by lift and just hit your stuff to standard and take it day by day or lift by lift, and you should be good to go.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. And
Valid.
then what are we kind of looking at? I mean, you said Nats, but overall, like where do you see yourself in the future in powerlifting? Do you see yourself, obviously you got USAPL, PA. I don't know with your technical bench, you're like kind of on the edge of bench depth. I'm not sure. You got to keep an eye on that, but like where do you see yourself being and how do you see all those transitions going?
Um, may or may not do a meet between now and Raw Nats to get the QT for open. I probably won't, but I'm not gonna single myself out for that. But next meet obviously is gonna be Raw Nats in hopes to kind of put up a really cool total. I'm excited for my training. Um, Outside of like moving forward, like more into the future with powerlifting, I'm trying to get become a ref. So slowly in the works for that. I would love to maybe get in the space for meet directing, and giving back to the sport, and holding like Georgia to a very high standard with regards to local level meets. I think that would be a cool thing, and just building up the space more in Georgia. As in regards to going to Powerlifting America, not in my cards right now. I think my competition is in USAPL. And until my competition's not in USAPL and they've all gone over to PA, I'll consider switching. But right now it's kind of not really in the cards for me. I have a lot of goals within USAPL I want to do. And my bench depth, I honestly don't even know if I would hit it. I've recorded from that angle before, and like it doesn't even look like depth. So I would have to make some big adjustments there. Not that I wouldn't make them, but it would be definitely very different, and I would be able to adapt. Just be quite the change. So yeah.
Sure. And then from your point of view, how do you view all this, big change between USAPL and PA? Like, do you feel like people are kind of just chasing what the higher ups are doing, or do you think people are taking it too early to jump over to PA, or like where do you think like the better for a newer lifter is to join? Because obviously you got a lot of the college teams talking right now whether their team wants to be involved with PA or USAPL, and it's kind of like a choose one or the other right now. Like, how do you feel like that's affecting the growth of the sport?
Um, such an interesting topic because I've talked about this a lot with people. I think personally, I think your goal is not to go to Worlds. I really don't think you have any business going PA. I think just focus on being in USAPL and focus on your competition there, because right now I don't think much of the competition, like not everyone's moved over. It's only the people who are dominating the weight class, like the tops of the tops, who are moved over. So it's kind of like people who aren't putting up a decently competitive total with people in their weight class, you're going to look a little silly on the platform. Not that you can't do it, you do if you want, but I think you'll be better just being more competitive within your weight class in USAPL, and then switching when you build a bigger total, or when I guess USAPL really just doesn't change what they need to do in terms of leadership and structuring national events and like the pro series and everything like that. Then maybe if like they just really don't do that, then if everyone starts going PA, then like I think it's just going to be everyone just pendulum swing, everyone going over. I really hope that that's not the case, because I think if I hope that USAPL just really makes the necessary adjustments that they need to do in order to keep their volume high and participation high, and keep it at the same standard that Powerlifting America is already being set at, and like the Sheffield and everything, like all those big events. So I hope they kind of get their shit together. Because I think personally, I think most people would honestly should just start USAPL, and then if you think your numbers are there, your numbers are comparable, then like go over. But yeah.
Sure. And then what are some like innovations that you've thought, or like something cool that these local meets, like you mentioned the standard and having a higher standard to actually have it feel like a elite level competition and not like, oh, a local meet you'll get gifts. But what are some like things you would like to see change at these local meets that would make Georgia feel more pristine? Or, you got the whole quality over quantity debate, and then the meet locations and the parking and all that. But what do you like to see in the local level?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember who mentioned it. I think it was either Lily or Kenya, but having cash prize for people, I think that's a great incentive, and I think that's an incentive that a lot of other federations use. So that's also encouraging. Honestly, just keeping up the standard is just always gonna push the envelope and keep everyone want to stay in USAPL and want to compete under USAPL. So honestly, looking at PA and just seeing the way they're paving, I think USAPL just should take some notes and be like, okay, they're doing this. We need to make sure we're doing this as well, and trying to also innovate in different ways. I don't know really many other ways because I don't really know all the behind the scenes when in regards to like meet directing. I think people who are meet directing probably have more knowledge there and can give more insight. I don't know. So I think just keeping everything to a high standard, and like local meets outside of states need to change from being like in CrossFit gyms with like small parking. I know it's kind of like you need to find a gym, like that's very typical. But I think just even those smaller meets, holding those to a high standard, and like it still being at a moderately decent gym as opposed to kind of like a small gym and things like that. So
For sure. And then
Oh
earlier
yeah.
you kind of mentioned like you knew your competition, and your competition is staying in USAPL. Who is that competition for you? Or like what kind of level do you see? Are you looking
um,
at?
at least in states, like in Georgia, it's definitely Lilia. Me and her are each other's ops. We're also good friends. But she's really cool. She's really strong. I've seen a lot of progress from her. Me and her are gonna battle it out at Raw Nats together. So that'll be cool to see. Honestly, within states, I really don't know anyone else that's in my weight class who's on my radar. Outside of states, there's a lot of outside lifters that my eyes are on. A girl named Kayla, she's up in Ohio, I think. Uh, there's another girl, I can't remember her name, but she's my class and she's pretty strong. So yeah, there's some lifters I have my eye on who motivate me to execute better in the gym and hold myself to a high standard. So
For sure, for sure. And then on that, like how high up do you keep up with the sport? Like, do you watch nationals? Do you watch any like big level event? Do you like follow athletes, specifically females, or like who are some of those athletes that you keep up with?
yeah, I would say keep up with a decent amount of PA and IPF lifters and everything. Even like just USAPL like Nats and everything. So like Christiane, she's in the 60 kg class. I keep it with honestly a lot more of the women than the men. Let's see, I'm trying to think of who Cass Carlton, she's in the 6'7.5" weight class as well. Jacqueline, she's in PA. She's really strong. Men wise, I keep up with like Bam Bam, Angelo, Lucky, um, Jamar, like a few of them on the men's side. I don't know who else going PA from that list I just said, but
You're a
uh,
big Natalie Richards fan, right?
yeah, she's actually my nutrition coach. I don't think I even mentioned that on here. Totally forgot, but
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
I don't think, yeah, many people don't really know. I kind of keep her like on the low. But yeah, she's my nutrition coach. I started with her, I think back It was when I was with my previous coach before Carl. So I started with her. And I honestly, my goal wasn't really just to like lose weight or anything with her. It was just to honestly make sure I make weights, stay in the 6, 7 and a half weight class, and build muscle and everything. And so I've been with her. She made me make weight with ease. I weighed in super light. I weighed in, I think, 65.8 keys.
Oh,
It's like in the 145-ish area. So I was weighing pretty light, honestly. But she's been great. I highly recommend her for anyone who's wanting to get a nutrition coach. She's been really good for me and changing my eating habits and helping weigh-ins go very smoothly and me not be stressed about weight. So that's been cool. But yeah, I look up to her a lot. So she's incredibly strong. Laya, Tiffany. All honestly, I watched Sheffield, and that was really cool. So I keep up to it. I can't honestly, I'm really bad with names. I can remember faces, just not names. But yeah, I like to keep up with the sport and keep my knowledge on it and just see what comes out of that. Have conversations with people, pick people's brains about it, just like we're doing now, obviously. So
Mhm.
yeah,
For
so
sure. And
as well, I was just gonna ask. I mean, obviously, like a huge debate in the sport regarding, especially with USAPL. I think a lot of people are kind of jumping over to PLA because of like one like brand reason, and it's because of the recent bump up of the QTs next year for Raw Nationals.
mhm.
Um, especially you and I we're about to enter into the Open. I don't know actually how old you are. I'm not sure. I'm assuming next year you're going to be in the Open, yeah?
I turned 23 actually this year, so technically I'll be able to compete in the next 2 nationals run-ats because I won't be 24 yet because next
Okay.
nationals is in June, so I'll still be 23.
Okay. Okay. Well,
So
I'll be 24 at that point. So, I was just wondering because obviously like I don't know actually the number the QT for 67,
mhm.
but the Open it's pretty crazy. So I was just wondering what your kind of initial thoughts were when you saw especially assume saying you literally signed up for this year's Raw Nationals, and then next year it's like holy crap, like this is a whole new number. So
Yeah, when I saw that come out, I mean, I was taken aback, obviously, but obviously everyone had gripes about the CNATs and the RONAT toll being low, and they're like, everyone and their mother can come, and so we said, give us a higher total or give us more competition, whatever, find some way to do it, and they said, okay, we'll give you a higher total, and everyone's like, wait, no, we didn't want that. So I understand like raising the total like 100%, and I honestly encourage it. How much they're raising it was very unaware of that. I mean, if they're raising it that high and that's where the competition is hitting that average QT, then like I want to be there. Like I want to hit that QT. Like I want to be as competitive because that shows like I'm in the top of my class. So why would I want them to not choose what's being totaled averagely? Like I want to hold my place and be able like if I went to run at to be like in 2025, like I earned my place because I hit this total that's completely crazy and I deserve to be here. So I think people switching over to Powerlifting America because they can't hit the run-ats is honestly more show of their character and how they don't want to put in the work to hit the total and they just want to kind of chicken out and be like, fine, I'll go to PA where like I'm competing against like the tops of the tops and not really honestly anyone. So yeah, I think for me it's more of a motivation honestly to hit the total. And like if I were to hit that total for open and qualify for run-ats, I think that's a testament to my coach for letting me for like training me and prepping me to hit that. But obviously like it shows I have a lot of strength and can take up a lot of strength in the sport. So I mean for people who are pissed about that, be pissed, but just be better. Like just gotta execute. So
yeah, super well said. Do you know your QT? Do you know just for
I I think it's in like the fours. I want to say like 4 450, 460. I remember
Okay.
I remember seeing it and I was like, damn, like that's like a 50, 60 kg jump from this year. So it's quite the jump. For open. For Q, I think for junior, I don't remember what it is, but I know for open it's a big jump, but I think it's more motivation to hit it and be like,
Yeah.
I hit it and I deserve to go.
Oh yeah. And you just got a 50. You said you got a like 30 or 40 kilo meet PR anyway. So you could definitely get up there by next year. Next year you'll be a junior still anyway, so you'll be all right. But
Hmm. The
I
open is
definitely like
475, by the way.
whew,
Yeah. It's high. It's high.
And
But
junior's
yeah,
462. Like that's not even that big of a difference.
yeah, it's high. But
yeah.
that's the goal. That if that's the standard, I'll compete. And the standard's that total. I want to do that. And I think everyone should kind
Hmm.
of adopt that same mentality. Why would you not want to compete amongst like the top people in your weight class across the US?
Yeah, I feel you for sure. I kind of had similar thoughts when I saw him because I was like right on the edge of getting to go to Nats, like my second year of competing. And honestly could have signed up and I would hit the QT at CNATs to go to Raw Nats. And then a lot of people were complaining, but I was like, if I can't see myself hitting, that 830 mark, then why am I even in it? Like I'm not actually competitive. Why would I not see myself eventually being there? I'm only 21. Why am I griping about not going to Nats?
Right.
But moving on, I guess. Tony, what you got anything?
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's funny because I mean, I'm the one out of us three that's going PA. So, but I will say when I saw those Raw Nationals QTs, I had like a ton of like feelings, and I truly am not one to shy. I'm truly not one to shy away from competition or like a hard total to hit or anything like that. As long as I agree with what CassiDee was saying earlier, I've always thought that the QTs were extremely low. As long as I've known about qualifying totals, I think I've always had like one for whatever meet I like kind of wanted to do. Like I remember for CNETs, I QT'd by I don't even know how many kilos. It was by a lot. And then Raw Nationals, I qualified for open and junior, and then I also qualified for like the weight class above me. Uh, for junior, not open. I was like 2.5 from open. That would have been really cool. But so this was the first time I was ever like, damn, dude, like this is like really beyond me at least in the moment. So it did kind of like kind of shock me a little bit, but wasn't anything that I felt like I couldn't do in the future. I know I can do that within the year for sure. And honestly, it kind of excited me a little bit because it made me realize like, yeah, like everybody at this meet is gonna have a 500 dots, every male. If you actually do the math, I think like the lowest QT is like a 490 for like 130 or 140 plus men because of they're so heavy.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, as an 82 going, you have to have like a 517 dots to even go. So I think that's amazing, and I kind of want to be a part of that. Uh, so I might come back next year. I really might. I think, like Cass said, if it's really about like the higher upper, people in control, people with power higher on the chain of command, if they can manage to make registration just better, like like all this little drama like bullshit, like these
That was
political little.
Yeah, that was a big topic of discussion is registration. I was able to register and I'll be completely transparent. I did register without a total at all for junior and open. But I knew I was like my goal for states is to one hit the junior open and one potentially hit the open QT. People can have their gripes about that. I think 100% like I understand everyone's for people who have the QTs and they didn't sign up in time and they basically can't do run ads, that does suck. But I think there definitely needs to be some sort of something in place where it does prioritize people who one like are in the top of the class, and people who already have the QT. Even though like I'm not excusing myself, like I know I qualified or registered without the QT, but I think like I probably shouldn't have been able to do that. I was able to do it because it was there, the option was there. I'll still do it because since it was open to me. But I think, yeah, I think going forward, that's one of the things is people being frustrated with is leadership and not hearing people's feedback. I mean, in regards to registration, because I think again last year, I think it might have been an issue. I'm not 100% sure.
It was because I remember being in like school or class or something, and then Avery sent me like a screenshot, and it was like I think it was from like Steve Denovi, and it was like if you haven't signed up for Raw Nats, like do it now because it's about to hit the cap. And I was like, what? And I told everybody I knew, and like it wasn't just me, it was like everybody in Eagle Power or like Zerlot, Chidera, EJ, everybody that was going to Raw Nats, Hunter. I was like, yo, sign up like right now. And we all made it and it was great. But like the next day, I think it was full. And it was like so fast. It was so insanely quick. Wasn't as quick as this year. This year was something else.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Honestly, I was awake when it opened. I didn't know it opened at midnight, but I was like on Instagram and like I think Joel or something had posted it, and I was like, wait, and I knew it was gonna open that day, so I planned on registering. I didn't know it was at that time, so I signed up like immediately, like then. And then I came to find out like it was just registration was in general like issue, which I thought was crazy.
yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you mentioned because I think a lot of that was a huge thing as well was how many people signed up without having a QT or without like having a QT but still not hitting like the one that they registered for.
Right.
Um I saw a lot of that and you can't blame the person because I think anybody that is in that position would do that. Like why would you sit out? Oh, I didn't compete in the past year or whatever. I can't hit the Q like like anybody would do it, but I definitely think there should be some sort of like maybe if like because I'm assuming like honestly there were so many, it wouldn't surprise me if like 100 people that signed up don't get the QT, and
Was
that's like
there
a
a wait?
hundred people. Hmm? A
Was there
wait
a wait?
list?
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't sure if there was like a wait list or anything. Like, because if people don't hit the QT, like,
Yeah,
like I don't know. I think it's in like August or something. They have to hit the QT by. I'm like, just doesn't someone get to come off the wait list? Can someone start immediately? Like, I don't. I'm curious of that process and like what happens there.
I don't think there is a wait list. Eli, have you ever heard of that? That's a great question. I've never heard of
So
that.
yeah, last year there was definitely a wait list, but same thing, USP, how much does USAPL pay attention to like, oh, this person dropped, we can now allow the first person?
Right.
I feel like there's definitely a limit, but I mean last year the cap was 1,300 and then on the day was 900 people like
Yeah,
ended up competing. So there's like a 400-person drop. And all that is
exactly.
QT. And ultimately you can't fault the athlete for signing up for Nats without having a QT. Like obviously you knew you were going to hit it, you did it, no problem.
Mhm.
If you're a newer athlete and you see like people are signing up for Nats, I need to sign up for Nats. Like you can't blame them for being excited about the sport, you know. It's kind of on USAPL's plate to actually regulate. You know, you have a database, make them put the database, have a total pop up because it can work like that. It can be automated. If your QT is in the database, good. And then registration won't fill up as fast. And those people who signed up without a total will still have time to go get the total and then sign up. But it's just such an astronomical scale. And maybe with these new QTs, the cap of lifter is going to be a lot less, that they'll be able to manage it better. It's just a tough system when you have 1,300 lifters and you actually need to monitor who they are and they're
Yeah,
across so
I
many
think
weight
also.
divisions.
Yeah, and also think plus with the new structure of 2025 Nats where you can only qualify at a state meet or a regional, the regionals. So I think that's also gonna cause I think those meets, so I think states 2025, the production level is at now, like that, like the production level next year doesn't have to be like 10 times more because like everyone's going to want to be at states to register to qualify for 2024 or 2025 Nats. Same thing with regionals. And I don't even know when like that timing is going to be because you want to make sure you like have time to one register and if there's going to be like a cap of or like a block of like when you can register or whatever and things like that. And so I'm curious to see what 2025 is going to be with in regards to kind of registration and it moving to you can only qualify at regionals or states. So interesting to see there.
Yeah, I'm crazy
Mhm.
interested. Like I don't want to speak in absolutes because I will say, PLA Georgia, like the PLA meets in Georgia. I don't know if you followed Drew Cargill,
Yeah.
but he just posted on his story like the Valhalla awaits me.
Oh,
Like
it looks nice. Like I was
it
gonna
looks
reply to him and be
crazy.
like that looks produced. Like that looks really nice.
And the funny thing is, I think Eli, correct me if I'm wrong, bro. Like I swear there's like 12 people doing that meet.
I can look up the
Um,
roster right now. I know there was
so
a
it's
big issue with capacity.
yeah, I think there's like 12 people actually like one flight. It's like a crazy small meet, and the
Wow.
production is still that really that nice.
There's
Imagine
no way
if
because
a
they
year
he
from
had 4 racks.
dude, I mean, still, I mean, but I mean he's just I think the quality of the PLA meets in Georgia are gonna be way better. And I think that's enough. That makes me like excited for these local meets a little bit more because it's just not in a CrossFit gym, not on a beat like 20-year-old ER rack.
Umber plates.
Yeah, so I mean, for one, that looks really cool, but obviously I'm worried about, national meets. I'm also thinking about like primetime meets, like you said, with cash prizes and stuff like that, because I personally I like to compete out of the state. I never really compete around Georgia too much more anymore. I like to I kind of want to venture out and travel and stuff, but like you said, with regionals and state, I'm really excited to see how that goes because next year if regionals looks really good, I really might just do regionals and then try to go to Raw Nationals. But in the back of my head, I just feel like even if I go to Raw Nationals and do really well, I just feel like I would always be like, damn, like if I hit a certain total, I'd be like, fuck, I could have literally like hit this total at PLA Open Nats and like been on the same platform with Russell Warhe, Angelo Fortino, Alex
Mhm.
Luckow. I could have been with those guys.
Yeah.
Um, and I wouldn't look like an idiot. I'd lose, but like I wouldn't look like why is this guy here? So that's the thing is it's like, do I want that fun Raw Nationals experience or do I want to be like actually I
Mhm.
don't know, man. I'll have to see. That's it. So I'll just have to
Yeah.
see. You
For
it's
clarification, on the roster, I'm looking at 20 athletes total, 2 flights.
oh, okay.
But
Okay.
it says there's 2 platforms too, so I don't maybe not. No, they just don't use the second platform. Okay. So yeah, 20 lifters. I know some of the names, but the production is gonna be insane. I don't You missed out there, Tony. That's all I'm gonna say. It
Yeah,
looks nice.
I was actually supposed to do that meet. I was actually supposed to, but then the DNA meet popped up and I was like, I'm just gonna do that because fucking Sean Jin is gonna be there. So I gotta if I can, and Gerald and Soul. So I all those 83s, I can't miss them. But
Hmm.
yeah, man, I'm excited to see. I mean, I don't next year like could like literally, then they popped out with that whole TV CBS thing. That's
Well,
huge. So
that's going to be really cool to see and kind of what that paves the way for powerlifting and making it more of a bigger event and more a national event. Honestly, having better production with that would be crazy.
just more money, yeah, bro. Like I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen, bro. I mean, so I think it'd be you'd be lying if you knew 2 years from now I'm 100% gonna be PLA or USAPL. Uh, Also, USAPL kind of fumbled the Pro Series, man, which really sucks because
Yeah. I
I've
think
always
they're
loved it.
taking it now at Arnold, right?
They're taking the Arnold out.
No. Aren't they finishing out the Pro Series now at the
Yeah,
Arnold? This is kind of the finisher.
the finals. Yeah.
That's
I
what
know
it
It's
is
just
every
like
year,
about
though.
yeah, I remember what was the meet they canceled?
Well, it
It
was
was
the actual Pro Series finale got moved to a different like venue in the Arnold. They like got kicked out of the usual room they're in and their time
or
slot.
yeah. Yeah, I remember the conversation around that was like, is the Arnold even happening? It was like a month and a
Mhm.
half, 2 months out or whatever. But there was another meet before that that was supposed to be last year, 2023. I don't remember which one what it was called, but there was supposed to be another pro series then, but it got canceled. What was
Oh
that?
yeah, the big pro series. It was I want to say like the Apex. It was Brad Couilliard's meet, and it lasted for like a month.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? Started with an A.
It
The
was
Apex, yeah,
it
the
was Apex.
Apex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I forgot all about that meet. That's crazy. I totally forgot
Talk
about
about
that meet.
dude.
Yeah,
Talk a good
I remember that
talk.
was supposed to happen and that got canceled. And then I think, I don't know, I just know this was kind of fishing out. So I remember the proceeds, like the energy started up really high and it just ended very poor. But hopefully
Yeah,
they
man.
finish out well and that the Arnold and
Hmm.
finishes and as well. And yeah.
But perfect transition. I have to mention the Arnold just because, USAPL stuff. Um, are you gonna watch the Arnold?
Probably. I'm not sure. I have like personal things tomorrow, like apartment touring. So that's like my entire day.
Hmm.
I don't know when I'll be able to. I think the primetime session's at 6, I think.
It
So I think
is.
I'll still be able to catch it. So I know there's some lifters I want to watch, like Bam Bam, Christiane, Cass, a couple of PR performance girls. Um, that's all I think off the top of my head. But yeah, I definitely
Hmm.
want to watch that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just gonna list them off just because this we didn't do a preview because there's not much to cover. But Kate Cohen's out of the meet would have been my favorite for the meet. Tony knows that we were very hyped for her at Nats, but you get to see
Yeah.
Leanne Lee and Jasmine compete again.
Oh
That's gonna
yeah.
be insane. Don't know what Sam Calhoun's gonna come out and do, if she's even gonna try or she's just gonna have fun. Elisha Gardner, Christine Cass, you mentioned all that. But obviously, Keenan Lee's the favorite. Joe
He's not
Bornstein could
competing.
snatch it. He's not competing. He dropped
He
out.
no, he dropped out. Yeah, he dropped out.
Out of the
He
know.
posted it, I think like 5, 6 days ago. I think he's injured slightly. I think he's still going through surgery or something, but I remember he dropped out.
Yeah, that makes
Damn.
sense because I was talking to Tony like 2 days
Wow.
ago about like he never hides his lifts. Like he must just not be lifting or something. And then so yeah, that makes sense. So Joe Bornstein's about to get a fat paycheck, honestly.
And
So
he's
that
going
means 18 lifters. That's gonna
wow.
be a quick meet. So I'd love to see Lucky go out. Hopefully Lucky can beat Joe. That would be hilarious. And then Anas, Kyle De Leon, Zachary D. Costanza, Brandon Dudley, Jalen Falk. Jalen Falk, that's gonna be fun to watch. Dom Fuqua, Sean Noriega, the GOAT. So Sean Noriega is
Mm.
gonna win it all, Tony. That's what I'm talking about. That's my boy.
He could. He really fucking could, man. I mean,
Mm.
I don't know why you said his name last. He really actually could. Like,
Well, I was reading the list down, That's how I read. I read from top to bottom occasionally. I don't know how you read books, but typically you start at the top and the left. Like that. But yeah, as we wrap up, we've been asking these to our collegiate nationals people, but you're in the sport, you know a lot. I would love to get these answers from you. What would be an advice to a newer lifter to help them, throughout their powerlifting journey?
Um, honestly, I probably would say like enjoy the progression of the block. I know like on week ones, like we're always like bored, like, oh, these are such light weights. Like I just want to hit like the heavy stuff. But that's like how you build. And that's honestly something I tell myself a lot is like enjoy the week 1, enjoy the week 2. And then obviously you'll be set up for success. But I think a lot of people they push weights, they'll take their top end on a day that they don't need to take it and just kind of screw up a block. I mean, I've done it multiple times and I'm getting better at it. So I think a lot of people they just need to enjoy like how a block progresses.
Hmm. And then I'm gonna specifically ask for a bench technique to obviously very technical lifter on bench. How does somebody get a setup like you?
Really being on top of your scap or not your scap, sorry, your traps. And like really being on your neck. My 2 cues I give myself is like trying to like be on top of my neck so much like I give myself a double chin. That's like my favorite cue and also cueing pinky pressure. Because sometimes like I tend to have like a passive grip that if it's too passive, I just it doesn't really work out well. So I have to cue some sort of pinky pressure to help kind of keep my wrist at a good angle where the bar sits comfortably. So
I got a question because I remember you mentioning that on your story. So when you say pinky pressure, do you mean like you're like just like just squeezing the bar like this, or do you mean like you're actually like doing the little bend the bar cue or
I'm
whatever?
not when I think of it, I'm not thinking of bending the bar. I'm literally just trying to push, like literally push down on my pinkies. Because I've had an issue with like if I don't, like sometimes the bar will I'll have too much passive grip and it will just kind of the bar could fall forward. Or if it's just too far back in my hands where I'm not cueing any sort of pressure right here. It just keeps the bar just in a lot better position. Especially with like being on my touch point, I can cue pressure in the bar and have a little bit of a more firm touch point, like a soft touch. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because okay, so yeah, that's really well. I was like curious. I remember seeing that. I was like, what does she mean with the pinky thing? Because I don't
Yeah.
think about my pinkies at all.
Once you try it, I know because I asked my coach, I remember one time, because I remember one time it was like the bar just didn't, it felt foreign in my hands. And I was like, I can't like, I was like, it just feels weird. It feels off. I feel like I'm like losing my stability and like it doesn't like the positioning is it moves because I had an issue with like my wrist like becoming too stacked. So and that was why I just wasn't having enough grip actually on the bar because a lot of people want like the passive grip that like Sean Noyer kind of has. Um, and so I remember I asked my coach and he was like, I want you to cue some like sort of pinky pressure. So and I think inherently it kind of iterates the bend the bar cue, but I don't think about it. I just think about just adding pressure there.
Okay, okay. And the last question, Nila.
Yeah, I guess we can do it. Mistakes you made that you would warn people not to make.
Oh my goodness. um that's tough. I feel like there's a lot of mistakes I've made. I guess the biggest one, stop trying to copy everyone else's form. uh your body's not the same as someone who has like the wingspan of a god and can deadlift like super easily. So honestly find what works for you, and if it works for you it does, stop trying to copy everyone else. You'll find yourself like your strength will be better in the way that fits you as opposed to you trying to fit someone else's strength. That's what I found because I'm like, oh, like, I want like a really long, like wide deadlift and have like no range of motion. Like same thing with bench. Like, I don't have a big arch. I'm like, okay, well, some people can't bend their spine like I can. So it's like don't copy that. If you can work your way and like and you find yourself you are stronger in that position over time through trial and error, go for it. But I wouldn't say like just be like, I want their deadlift and I'm gonna copy it because it's not gonna work like that.
For sure.
Whose
Phenomenal.
deadlift did you
Phenomenal
try to
answers.
copy?
Um, She's Cass Carlton, honestly. She's like one of my big like motivators and inspirations, like when I first got started, even now. But I remember like I always tried copying her deadlift a little bit, like when I got a little bit more in tune with my technique and stuff. So
Valid for sure. And then obviously you've given us 2.5 hours or like 2 hours of your time, so we're not gonna hold you any longer. Do you have any shout outs to give?
um shout out to everyone who honestly just supported me throughout my prep and honestly on the day and sent me like really nice messages. It was really great to see the support in the community and to me because sometimes um I think lifting is it's a solo sport and it can feel isolating. And sometimes you can just feel like unsupported. But it was nice throughout prep, just everyone encouraging me. Like when I had my lows of lows, people encouraging me and talking me through it. I remember like Opal, like the day, like during my peak week, I had like the worst day. I was like, honestly, I was like crying in the gym, and I'm not gonna say it's embarrassing to me because emotions are normal, but he like talked me through it and he was very intentional with like the words he was saying, and he definitely pushed me like through the end of that peak week. Honestly, everyone at Trueborn DNA just was honestly my rocks, and yeah.
Phenomenal. And then plug your socials.
Oh, My lifting account is all cast no breaks with 2 S's in cast, 2 S's in breaks.
Phenomenal.
Okay.
And then finally, we mentioned your ops earlier, Lilia. Give us a word to the ops.
Oh gosh. I don't want to say anything that's like, I don't know. I'm not a mean person. And like we're not like ops like that where we like have like that like type of banter. I guess my only thing is like bring it your all. Because I'll bring my all.
Okay.
That's all
Phenomenal,
I'm gonna
phenomenal.
say.
Put her on the spot.
That's when the best things happen. We're very appreciative of you giving us so much of your time. Obviously, we went a lot longer than we thought, but happy you can make it. Very happy when we can have someone so knowledgeable on the pod. But you've been great. Peace out.
Thanks for having me, guys.